tax cuts and the budget. How worried should we be about debt and house prices? And West farmers, have they had a brain explosion? I'm Peter Switzer.
I'm Paul Rickard.
And we're mad about money. Paul, let's start with tax cuts. Lucy Ellis, she's Assistant Governor of the Reserve Bank, and she's basically saying to the government, go out there and give us tax cuts.
Well, they're going to get them. That's what ScoMo's going to do next Tuesday night, Peter.
Yeah.
Hasn't got much else to do, but it's hard to promise tax cuts. So that's his sort of
But
last...
isn't it good it's not just electoral giveaway and bribe, it's actually going to be economically important because the tax man, Chris Jordan, he's a man, I'm not being sexist, tax man has actually been taking more tax than even the Reserve Bank expected, a growth of 8%.
And that's your point about actually we're overdue a tax cut simply because the government's found a way to take more and not give it back. So we deserve tax cuts. Come on, ScoMo, let's give it to us next Tuesday. Yeah. Look, speaking of those tax cuts, the question is what he's going to do. Is he going to just accelerate the tax cuts they've already announced or find something new? My sense is he wants something coming into play on the 1st of July, otherwise it's just too far down the horizon.
Yeah, good point.
He needs to take on Billy Shorten head on, so I think they're going to be quite targeted, but probably directed to low and middle income earners, kicking in on the 1st of July. Go for it, ScoMo.
But the big interesting point is this, that when all my journalist mates get stuck into Josh Frydenberg and ScoMo the day after the budget say, oh, these are electoral giveaways, he can just say, the Reserve Bank said we need it. Chris Jordan's been taxing us too. And of course, there's bracket creep as well. All those things. Apparently, the big story is that Chris Jordan and the tax office have been cracking down on deductions. So a lot of people have been caught out for over-claiming, and that's resulted in a big rise. And it means that less income in the hands of Aussies, and it partly explains why consumption and retail has been terrible.
All right, let's move on. I think tax cuts, go for it, ScoMo. Another interesting thing about tax cuts is there's a suggestion that from the Labor Party that accountants are going to be capped at $3,000 in terms of what they can charge their clients for deductions. That's a big story yet to come out. Ooh. Could have a big impact on the accounting industry, so another one to watch out there.
Okay, next story. How worried should we be about house prices and the level of debt? Because the debt is the big problem. If we get judged by the world bankers as being too much in debt, they might start raising interest rates on us, and that house prices would just go right down 40-50%, wouldn't they?
They would, Peter. Look, you know what my view about house prices is. I find some of this house price debate
doesn't care.
pretty boring stuff. Look, just changing the subject, you're not going to like this, but I want to just make a note of Westpac today.
Wait, before you get to Westpac, the bottom line, I'll make a point. There's a great debate, which I refereed between Chris Joy and John Adams. And the interesting point that Joy brought up was a lot of people worried about the rise of the debt and the fact that income's not rising fast enough. But he said when you factor in where interest rates are, in actual fact, houses are cheap compared to 1980. So that's a really, debt serviceability is important because I would rather lend $1 million to BHP than say Bellamy's because BHP is more likely to be able to pay that money back.
So his point was that house prices are okay, right? That's, if you look at the fact
manageable.
that
Reserve Bank
huge reduction in interest rates, incomes have gone up, that, you know, people, sure, the average consumer's debt has gone up, but their serviceability is no different to where they were 20 years ago. House prices are okay. Can I yawn now?
Yeah, he is not like us. He doesn't care about house prices.
Who won the debate, by the way?
I think
so on the spot.
Yeah, Chris Joy won quite easily, I think.
All right, you can watch that on Switcher TV and on Sky. There's got to be something.
Well, it's not on Switcher TV. It's only on the Your Money channel, but still, it's still worth watching. Anyway, let's go to the final
I wanted to mention
story.
Westpac offering a $2,000 cash rebate to anyone taking out a loan. That's big news. That tells you
Have you got Westpac shares, Paul?
I have got Westpac shares, but it does tell you that they are looking at ways to grow their business, and they need to get consumers out there again. So maybe the market is a bit more depressed than we've been giving it.
And I do like the fact that David Murray's come out and basically said the bank rules on loans since the Royal Commission are just too tough.
Yep.
And I think that's going to be a social message that's going to get through, which will help the housing sector as well. Final issue, Wes farmers, you reckon they've had a brain explosion?
I think they've had a brain snap. I mean, well, it might turn out to be the best purchase ever, but the idea that they're going to buy Linus.
Yeah. Explain what Linus is.
Linus is a producer of rare earths, which materials they're used in batteries, and so huge growth potentially in electric cars. China controls about 85% of the market. Linus is the next biggest producer.
They're in Malaysia, aren't they, Paul?
Yep. Well,
Aussie company in Malaysia.
They mine in Australia and process in Malaysia. Huge issues with the Malaysian government over the processing in terms of the disposal of low-level radioactive waste. You know, Australia's relationship with Malaysia has always been pretty stretched. So, you know, Linus has been doing it pretty tough for the last 12 months. Now, this is a company, Wesfarmers. We've just got out of all our coal mining assets, which we've taken X years to sell. We've got out of coals. We've now got cash. Hey, presto, we're getting back into mining again, right? That really goes well with our Target and our Bunnings and our other conglomerate businesses. We're going to be a rare earth miner and processor.
But Paul, when you think about it, I know it's a risky thing going to Linus, but the interesting thing is Wesfarmers has done well by being diversified in many ways. Just, you know, when, for example, mine didn't do well, their retail side probably helped
I'm not
them.
necessarily against the conglomerate strategy, Peter, but I think this is the problem. I mean, the market lauded Scott when he took over. He's the MD, sell all these assets, share price went up. Remember, selling assets creates absolutely no value. All it does is it maybe creates cash and strengthens the balance sheet. So they said what a great job he's selling. Now he has to grow revenue again. Very hard to do much with Bunnings because it's just chugging along nicely.
Great business.
They went overseas, they tried it, they failed, so you can't take Bunnings overseas.
Commies don't like barbecue sausages.
Yep. So what do you do? Well, he's been his bunch of gurus in Perth been sitting around thinking, well, hey presto, what business do we buy? And suddenly they come up with Linus. If you'd asked the fund managers which would be the most unlikely company to make a takeover bid, it would be Linus. Now maybe it'll turn out to be an heroic purchase, but look, it just looks like one of these brain explosions. We've got to do something. We found a company, and anyhow, look, the deal may never happen. But you know, the market's judgment yesterday was sell first, ask questions later. I think that's the way the market's going to treat this until Wesfarmers can mount a credible defence and has put out very little information about why it's doing it. It's an indicative bid. That's all conditional. It may never happen, you know, but. Oh dear, this is what happens when you put bean counters, and he's looking like a bean counter in charge of a business.
Okay, I'm Peter Switzer.
I'm Paul Rickard.
And we're
mad about money.